I'm Donte Johnson.
I'm Jason C. Bass.
This is the Impact Hospitality Handbook. We thought we'd add video to add an interesting element to the experience for the user. We wanted to further embellish the storytelling. We wanted to give meaningful insights on how organically a lot of this work came together.
In this chapter, you learn a lot about Donte and I, our past, our upbringing, and ultimately how we came together to create this entire experience.
The industry, hospitality, I think has evolved quite a bit in the last 10 or 15 years, due in large part to a lot of the things that have happened in the world. I never saw myself as a hotel person growing up. I think I worked in a nice hotel long before I ever stayed in one. So it wasn't an industry that was even on my radar. I kind of fell into it, and we get into a bit of that in the book. My aunt worked in a hotel. That was really my first time spending any time in those types of spaces. But I think growing up, in DC, in a wild time in the city, being deeply disconnected from really any industry, sort of grounds the way that we approach the work in a very interesting perspective. Because I think a lot of the people who we look to create space for and create opportunity for are people who are us, or at some point in life we were. And so I think being able to see yourself on the other side of the work gives a very unique perspective, and I think positions us in a way that's very impactful.
Absolutely. And you touched on something that I said a lot the beginning years within my journey within hospitality was, I'm just not a hotel guy.
Yeah.
But we bonded on our upbringing, our childhood, and also our interest and passion in the work that you helped to create a vision for. Living in Baltimore, they call it Baltimore because everybody knows each other and more like 1 degree of separation. I always saw hotels as a great place to sit, work, kind of be inspired and meet new people because it's a very transient space.
Yeah.
So I had a natural kind of affinity for the hotel itself and what it represented. Meeting you and kind of being introduced to the industry as a whole and kind of defining a real way that I could participate and impact the not only the city but the entire industry motivated me to put more energy into this than all the other industries I've done in the past, I've worked in the past.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's so much about this that's unlikely. We talk a lot about the DC Baltimore thing. It is still very much a thing. We talk a lot about you being from outside the industry, me being from inside the industry. But I think, talking about upbringing and what we did in life before this, I never saw hotels in that way. And I think it's very interesting because those were not spaces that were for me. There were sections of the city that we didn't even go into as kids because we weren't made to feel welcome. We didn't belong there. And the more time I spent in the industry and, starting out at the entry level, I think you see things through a different lens. The more I saw that wasn't a situation that had to exist. And I always thought to myself, and I think a lot of people, it comes off as naive when you're starting out. You go, well, when I'm in charge, it's like when you're a kid, you go, when I have my own kids, I'm not going to be that way. And then you turn exactly into your parents. And so the thing for me was always, I never wanted the things I had to learn and the things I had to do in order to progress in the industry to rob me of the perspective of what it felt like, being a kid in the city who didn't feel welcome in these spaces, being an adult in the city and who didn't feel welcome in these spaces. And so I think, clinging fiercely to that perspective is part of the reason why this work has been so meaningful, and I think why it's been so substantive. I also feel like people can feel that. I think, we talk a lot about, how we first started working together and how that all happened on a handshake. Yeah. And then I went home and had to explain to my legal professional wife that I just did a handshake thing. And it's like, that's not how life works.
Yeah.
But I think for you, you talk about how you saw authenticity and you saw somebody who was deserving of trust on the other side of it and were willing to just go, well, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. And that it's you kind of can recognize in people when they're being genuine and truthful in a way that I think you only truly get to dial in when you grow up with a past that is similar to ours, right? You have to quickly be able to discern, who's telling the truth and who isn't. Yeah. And in this case, I just really connected with not only like how you described what I hoped, ultimately the hospitality experience could look like for people like us. Yeah. But also just really showing how like Baltimore itself
Yeah.
can be a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's rare that you meet somebody that like you can immediately tell like something good can happen from this.
Yeah.
And then be willing to put your time, effort, and everything on the line to figure that out.
Yeah, it's kind of reframed the way I see meeting new people in general and the way I build relationships. I say all the time, when I was 25 years old, I had all the people I needed.
Yeah.
These are the people I'm going through life with. And, no new friends was hot. And it was like, great, this is what we're doing. And the most unlikely of things, you go to Baltimore, a city that's been up the road my entire life, that I never spent much time in, and meet people and go, man, like we can really come together and do some great things. I think it's a really cool thing. I think I've always felt like an outsider on the inside of a thing. And so it's interesting when we talk about hotel stuff and you're like, well, when you want to know like the hotel lingo and the jargon and the data, talk to Donte. I'll talk to you about the creative side. I have always been the most outsider person in the environment until we introduce somebody who's truly from the outside. And so as much as I think we stress each other out, I think why people should listen to us is because, we've done that work.
Absolutely.
And we've done the work to be productive while also challenge each other in very interesting ways. And I think we're both probably better off for it, as stressful as it can be.
Yeah.
And I think the other people around us have become a part of that. And so then in the same ways that we challenge each other, we challenge them, they challenge us, they hold us accountable. And, one of the things that I've always talked about is the community will hold you accountable for the things that you say you are and how well you do them. And so we can say, we're here to add positive change to the environment. We're here to put love into every room that we're in. But to your point, people are watching, and they're watching with a discerning eye. And the second you fail to live up to the things that you espouse, then it just becomes rhetoric. And the second that it does that, it all falls apart. I think the first thing that people who are engaging with this text need to understand is that, authenticity comes first. And the first sign that people can tell that you're not authentic and that you don't mean what you say, all of it falls apart. There's tons of
programs. It's a buzzword.
It is. It is.
A buzzword
100% it is.
Across the industry.
And across many industries. I think, there's no shortage of programs that are well-intended, well-funded, and well put together. And people have come to us and said, well, how come nobody showed up for the thing? And it's because you didn't build a connection, you didn't build trust, you didn't demonstrate authenticity with the audience whom you seek to serve. And so that's the first part. I think we have the benefit in many cases, looking at a city like Baltimore, a city like DC, and many others, to be from those environments. So it makes it a lot easier for us to tap in.
Also, I mean, if you talk to anybody in the hospitality industry, they say that, they never intended to really
fall into,
right? And that's the majority. I'm not going to say everybody has that perspective. And I think that's the same way I approached it in the beginning was, this is temporary.
Right.
But let's explore what this looks like to program a hotel that it is demonstrating that they truly want to make an impact in the community, and then create experiences that involve things that are of interest of the community. So, to see what that opportunity would bring was, I was very curious.
Yeah.
The human element was attractive. Instead of doing, PowerPoints and spreadsheets all day long, in IT or one of those other industries, this gave me a chance to connect to people in a significant way and to see the impact of that, immediately. Right?
Yeah.
So, whereas you don't get like that in some cases, some industries where you don't get that kind of like, return on, what you're putting out. This gave me an opportunity to do that. I think we saw that from the entire city.
Yeah.
And the results of that show within the earned media, within just the people's conversation, if you talk to anybody around Baltimore, and then as well as like how the industry has decided to pay attention to the work we've done.
Yeah, it's ironic because literally the first thing I asked you to do was to create a PowerPoint after our first conversation. But I think everything on the other side of that has been intentionally very human and very organic. And so I think as you go through the text, you'll see that it's really organic storytelling. This is meant to not be a comprehensive instruction manual, but a handbook to inspire, to help people to imagine how they can do business differently. And it's grounded in hospitality as an industry, but it's not limited to hospitality as an industry. we feel very deeply that this is a model that could influence and impact how business is done at large. And so we're happy to present this work.
Thank you.